Perfect. I am live. I'm actually really excited about this today. So for you that are on Facebook, I'm actually going to be presenting to you some little teasers from my course. Yes, that's right. So you are going to be able to see some of the PowerPoint slides, woohoo, from the actual course. So for you on Instagram, I'm going to be giving you some information from that course, from the PowerPoint slides, and then I'll just wrap it all up at the end. So with that in mind, I'm going to get some water because hydration is super important. Okay. With that in mind, I am going to record and I'm going to start this. All right, we'll go into slideshow. Woo. Very exciting. Oops, I am not up on the slideshow. Need to get up on that. Here we go. All set. So let me just, all right, let me get this up first. All right. Here we go. And that should be it. For those on Instagram, let me move this for a second. Okay, perfect. Share. And here we go. Perfect. All right, I am also going to be recording this as well. Woohoo! All right, record on this computer. Excellent, it's recording now. So hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for the live today. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you, as I said before, little tidbits from my new program, my 6-week course, Food for Performance for Female Athletes. Very exciting. So I want to just introduce myself. My name is Drew Mulvey. I am actually, you know what? I'm going to go to the next slide because that's going to introduce me. All right. Hello. My name is Drew Mulvey. I have a bachelor's in biology, which I graduated in 2012. I have a master's in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport, which I graduated summa cum laude. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist. I am a board certified nutrition specialist. I am a certified LEAP therapist, which is a specific food sensitivity protocol based off of MRT testing. It's about 92% accurate and specific for those particular food sensitivities and is absolutely incredible for decreasing inflammation, migraines, IBS, and athletic performance. I'm already on my 4th week and I feel great. I am a precision nutrition level 1 coach, which is more holistic sports nutrition. I am a NASM certified personal trainer, which I train here in town. And I am also founder of Redeeming Life Nutrition. So let's go back to the basis of and the foundation of all this. Where did this passion start and where did this all start? Well, here's my story. I have done sports my whole entire life. Softball, basketball, field hockey. I was a natural born athlete. And actually, in my college years, I was a diver. I was a Division I diver, and I absolutely loved diving. That was my main sport for 13 years of my life. But with that in mind, there were a lot of health battles that I had to face. Now I've been able to transition into more triathlon training, which I've received my athletic ability back. But before, I struggled with a lot of different health conditions that significantly impacted my athletic performance. So here was the diagnosis. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and candida all at the same time. I was 20 years old, and that was in the midst of my Division I diving career, let alone I had to cease from that. I was diagnosed with dysmenorrhea when I was younger, which was heavy blood flow. I would actually lose so much blood that I would pass out in hallways. I had several gastrointestinal issues. IBS was the first thing that I was diagnosed with when I was 14, had multiple food sensitivities, which I still try to stay on top of, ulcers, gastroparesis, etc. You name it, I had it. Depression and suicidal thoughts. I was actually diagnosed with depression when I was 14 years old as well. And interestingly enough, depression, IBS are very closely linked. And I was put on medication for that. Diagnosed with ADHD at around the same time and put on medication for that. In my mid-20s, I was diagnosed with an endometrioma, which is a cyst that is embedded in your ovarian wall. It was very, very uncomfortable. I was also diagnosed with an autoimmune condition where my natural killer cells were actually attacking themselves. And this was during the same time that I had fibromyalgia. So I had 2 autoimmune conditions at the same time. I was really a happy camper. I had several disordered eating patterns over my lifespan. So it started at 19, I was bulimic, and then I got into really, really healthy eating and was fearful around food. And that's a better term for that is orthorexia. And then that later led into binge eating disorder as well. I had functional hypothalamic amenorrhea and infertility, which is a lack of periods. From that, as I'm going to cover a little later, because of hormones, I had osteopenia, which is brittle bones, because hormones are actually very, very important for that. I had C. diff in my earlier 20s, which you have a natural amount in your actual system, but if it starts to proliferate, it can be very deadly and it can actually cause colitis, which is inflammation of the colon. I had I still have Joubert syndrome. I was diagnosed with that at 14, so it actually makes it harder for me to detox things out of my body and go through phase 2 liver detoxification. So I have to make sure that I'm really getting the proper foods in there to detox things out of my body and really help it along. I was also getting heart palpitations, so shooting and sudden pains in my chest. That also has to relate to hormones. And I just want to call you all to this picture over here on the left side. Those that are on Instagram, there's a picture of me here in 2014. I look much skinnier and I don't look healthy. You wouldn't be able to tell that I could lift 145 pounds, squat 145 pounds, because I was under so much stress in my body. I couldn't even maintain muscle tone. And also during this time is when I had lost my period and I had osteopenia as well, and the shooting pains. So that was me then, but this is me now. And for those of you on Instagram, you can see me now. Today, I'm chasing my athletic goals with better recovery. I am on no medications. I have a regular menses. I am on the proper supplements and foods to support focus. I have a very healthy relationship with food. So eating for fuel, really nutrient dense foods, but it's also coupled with, I don't even want to say junk foods, happy place foods. We're just going to put it like that. I have much healthier mindsets and a much healthier relationship with myself as well, let alone I was very anxious. I have a much better perception of stress now. I have the ability to be able to enjoy activities. I was in bed for half of my 20s. That was not fun. And now I feel like I have this new life and new energy to be able to enjoy so many more activities. I'm listening to my body and I have far less crashes than I ever had previously. So what exactly did I do to be able to get to this point? Well, I had some functional testing, alternative care. I got on the proper supplement routine. I started cleaning up my nutrition routine, which I did not have a very good nutritious diet when I was in college. I'm going to fully admit that. And I was using functional foods to target each of the problems that I had, which I'm going to go into a little bit more of detail of everything that I just discussed. So ask yourself these questions. Are you feeling lethargic? Is it hard for you to recover after your workouts? And have you experienced any of the symptoms that I was going through? Well, from the nutritionist that's been there, let's get to the root of the problem and get you performing your best. Sorry, this slide is taking a little while. But first of all, one of the things that I was saying before is that I have a much better perception of stress. But let's first take a look at what stress does to your body and where it comes from. There's actually 7 common stressors that we are exposed to every single day. So there's mechanical stress, which is too little or too much exercise, nutritional, so eating processed, really sugary fried foods, not getting a lot of greens and nutrient dense foods. It's also psychological as well. So one of the most pro-inflammatory things can be negative thoughts. That is one thing I will never forget one of my professors told me. So that psychological is very, very important. That could also be psychological stress from school, from work, from life in general. There's electromagnetic stress. So in the last 100 years, there has been so many advances in technology that our bodies are not used to all the EMF or electromagnetic frequency that's coming at us. So that's an extra stressor on us. In fact, when people's systems are really, really down, they are commonly sensitive to too much time on the phone and in front of this computer screen as well. So that does add a bit of a stress on the body. So there's infection, obviously, if you get sick. Chemical, that could be what you put on your skin, the chemicals that you put in your skin. That could be medication. That could be the chemicals that are also, it's on our food, pesticides. But there's thermal as well. A lot of people tend to say that they kind of get a little down in the dumps when the seasons change to the colder seasons. There's a reason for that. So especially if somebody is very, very sensitive, that thermal stress is actually could potentially, I don't want to say lead to that, but could potentially contribute to that. So why is it important that you have all of these balanced? I apologize. My computer is acting very slow today. Okay, so we have fight or flight. That's what happens when your body is super overstressed. This is also known as allostatic load, where all the processes in your body, they were going normally for a relatively good amount of time, and then all of a sudden it just was too much stress on the body. So what happens? That decreases protein synthesis, that also decreases potassium and magnesium levels, which can lead to heart issues and to muscle cramps. Also increases levels of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and the ever so dreaded catecholamine, cortisol. Now, cortisol is one of your stress hormones that has been big recently. So if you are super stressed out, yes, cortisol can be an issue. But it also, the fight or flight, it also increases LDL levels. So you have the LDL particle and the HDL particle. The LDL particle, they're considered bad particles, but it depends on the size. I will get that. That will be for a different conversation, different time. But with that in mind, but really, what does the psychological and physical stress do to the body? And why should we really be concerned, especially as female athletes? Well, this increases cortisol and decreases the production of estrogen and progesterone. And those are not just important for reproduction, but for several other processes in the body, which is what we're going to go into now. So estrogen is actually responsible for reproduction, for bone strength. So my estrogen had tanked, and that's why I had become osteopenic. Serotonin production, your feel-good neurotransmitter. You're not feeling so good when your estrogen is down. It increases HDL, so that's the good cholesterol. It decreases blood pressure, which is very important, and increases blood flow. You want to have proper blood flow because you need to get those nutrients to your muscles, especially to recover. And brain power. Yep, you need hormones balanced to think properly. So that's just estrogen alone. So what exactly can happen with a lack of estrogen and even too much estrogen, as this has been linked to breast cancer? Well, lack of estrogen leading to multiple stress fractures could cause hair loss, could cause memory loss, which I had all of those. And it could cause low serotonin levels. So just as I was saying before, because it's important for the production of serotonin. Now, if you have too much estrogen, that could put you at an increased risk of breast cancer. That could also contribute to ovarian cysts, PMS symptoms, since everybody loves those, heavy menstrual cycles, which at one time I did have those, loss of a sex drive, which can actually happen with low estrogen levels as well, sweets cravings, weight gain, and water retention. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? But how about your other hormones? So we have estrogen and we also have progesterone. So what exactly does progesterone do? It's important for reproduction. It's important for sleep quality. So if you do not have proper progesterone levels, you are not going to be sleeping too well. It's important for respiration, breathing. So especially if you're an endurance athlete, you want to be able to breathe, right? Okay, so progesterone needs to be in a healthy balance. It's responsible for mood. It actually increases dopamine levels. It's responsible for appetite and learning and memory. So again, both of the hormones are important for brain power. Sexual activity, obviously, that's one of your hormones. It's an anti-inflammatory and it's also an anxiolytic. So it helps it decrease anxiety levels. So as you're seeing, estrogen and progesterone play a bigger role than just reproduction. They are important for several different processes in the body, and it's really important for the female athlete to have those in balance if you want longevity in your sport. But what usually happens, there is something called the female athlete triad. And what exactly does this entail? So it first starts out with disordered eating patterns. So that could be diagnosed. So bulimia, orthorexia, binge eating disorder, as I had, or it could just be not fueling properly for your sport. This is very, very common in endurance athletes. And what does that then lead to? So that basically is telling your body that it's starving and then it stops menstruating. So then there's the lack of the period. What happens then? Well, cortisol actually shunts the production of estrogen and progesterone. So it decreases the production of estrogen and progesterone. So what does that do? It also can contribute to lack of bone strength and bone density, so decreased bone density. And as I said, very common in endurance athletes because they're running long distances and you need a lot of calories to be able to fuel your workouts. So you don't want to be afraid of food. That is what the main message is of this. So what exactly is the role of sport nutrition in sports performance? All right, so one of the first things that I had to do was I had to get the right amount of calories. So prolonged negative energy balance or a prolonged caloric deficit is a surefire way to tell the body that it is starving and that is not fit to reproduce. We don't want that. It is important that maintenance plus calories are consumed to let the body know that it can hold a child if you have lost your period. Let alone if you are an endurance athlete and you're an athlete, it is good to have those times where you have those maintenance calories. There's also the hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which play a role in your menses as well, which is super important for the female athlete. Leptin is responsible for decreasing hunger, maintaining energy balance, and is strongly correlated with cyclicity in a woman's cycle. You wouldn't think your hunger hormones would really be responsible for that, but they are. Ghrelin is a protein produced by the stomach, and is correlated with meal timing. So rising 1 to 2 hours before a meal and dropping 1 to 2 hours after a meal. I'll throw in a little bit of a tidbit here. I usually recommend if you have lost your period that you are eating every 2 hours. So it's telling the body that it's not starving. There you go. Fun fact. Ghrelin is higher in those with functional hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is loss of a period, eating disorders, and those in a caloric deficit, which can send signals to the body to shut down gonadotropic releasing hormone and luteinizing hormone, which is the precursor to sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Now, when under prolonged periods of stress, the body does not only become resistant to insulin, but resistant to leptin. This further impairs proper hunger signals, energy balance, and regulation of cycles. Even after leptin levels are improved, it still takes time for ghrelin to catch up and may prolong menstrual irregularities. So as we were talking about before, ghrelin increases when you're around a meal, right? You get hungry. So it is really important that you're not telling the body that it's starving in any sort of way if you've had any sort of menstrual irregularities as an athlete. So how exactly do we figure out how many calories that we're going to need? Well, you need to figure out what your basal metabolic rate is first. And this is the amount of calories that you burn just as at rest. And it's dependent on your height, weight, sex, etc. You can type that in Google and find a BMR calculator for yourself and then just go by that. Now that is just the amount of calories that your body needs at rest, doing absolutely nothing, being a couch potato. But most of us are not just doing that. So actually, most of us, we're female athletes. So we are certainly not doing that. And we need a lot more energy in to expend energy out. And so the other part of figuring out your calories is your total daily energy expenditure, which is your BMR times an activity quotient. So there's sedentary, which as athletes, we are not sedentary. You want to multiply your BMR by 1.2. Lightly active is going to be 1.375. Moderately active is 1.5. So that's sports 3 to 5 times per week. Very active is that you're doing sports 7 days a week. You want to multiply that by 1.725 or just 1.7. Or if you are extremely active, that means that you are working out multiple times per week and that you also have a strenuous job as well. You're lifting things. That's going to be about 1.9. Now, for endurance athletes in particular, I would probably multiply by 1.7 to 1.9, especially if you're training. If you are a college athlete in particular, you are training 6 days a week and multiple times a day. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right amount of calories in. But it's not just about calories, it's also about macronutrients. So macronutrients are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. Now, what I'm going to focus on in particular is protein, because that is the one that helps with muscle building. So it's going to be different amongst the populations. It depends on what sport you're actually doing. Usually, what they recommend for endurance athletes is about 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. For bodybuilders, it's going to be a little bit more, 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram. And then for any sort of active individuals, it's going to be about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram. Now, endurance athletes are going to also need more carbohydrates to sustain their sport. But honestly, for most of these populations, I usually recommend the 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram, because even as an endurance athlete, you're breaking down muscle and you need protein to be able to recover. So let's look at the next one, carbohydrates. They are very important for you. So those low carb diets out there, do not do them, please. You can lower the carbohydrates just a little bit depending on what your athletic goals are, but they are super important for your performance. Why is that? Carbohydrates help amino acids such as tryptophan, responsible for the generation of our well-being compound serotonin, cross the blood-brain barrier. So you need them to be happy. Everybody likes to be happy. It decreases production of cortisol, our stress hormone, which I was talking about previously. Acutely, cortisol can work in our favor as an anti-inflammatory, but exposure to cortisol over an extended amount of time can be pro-inflammatory, create insulin and weight loss resistance, disrupt sleep patterns, and start to eat up your muscles, which is something that you could see in me. You could not tell that I was lifting that much weight. It's the main source of energy for the body. So your brain alone needs about 120 grams of carbohydrates. It's responsible for binding toxins from liver detoxification. So there is a liver detoxification pathway called glucuronidation, and that is carbohydrates are needed to be able to push that phase 2 liver detox and get those toxins out. Why is phase 2 so important? Because in phase 1, the toxins are coming in as fat soluble, and then they're being converted into a water soluble. I shouldn't even say water soluble toxin, but after phase 1, they are very toxic. If they don't go into phase 2, they're more toxic coming out of phase 1 than they were coming into it. So it's really important that phase 2 actually grabs them. So going through phase 2, then it'll go through phase 3, get rid of these toxins either from the liver down to the intestines, the large intestines, or down to the kidneys to be eliminated. So this is essential if you are on any sort of a whole food detox. This is also needed for proper thyroid function and metabolism. Yeah, you read that right. Carbohydrates are necessary for conversion of T4 to T3, the active form of the thyroid molecule. So you want to be able to have a really balanced metabolism, especially if you are an athlete. So what do I really want to focus on? Well, there's complex carbohydrates. There can be simple carbohydrates, especially for those that are endurance athletes. But for right now, I'm going to be talking about complex carbohydrates. So all carbohydrates are really in the form of sugars. And complex carbohydrates contain long chains that require energy for the body to break them down. So it takes a lot more time for them to be broken down. These are in the form of fibers such as oligosaccharides and polysaccharides, and these actually bypass digestion, which actually brings down the actual amount of carbohydrate in that food. Now, fiber also helps you to feel fuller for longer because it's taking more time to be able to break down those long chains of sugars. But this also brings down the glycemic index and the glycemic load. So the amount of sugar that's being released into your bloodstream, because if it's too quick, then you're going to get that insulin spike. And that's usually what happens in insulin resistance, is that you get that insulin spike and then you have insulin resistance and it can't be taken up by the actual cell. So then you've got glucose and you've got this floating around your bloodstream, which can make it difficult to lose weight. But also, if you're insulin resistant, remember leptin as well. And you don't want to be resistant in any of those areas because you need to have proper uptake of everything. So another way to help the body to calm down and get into a good state of homeostasis, so all the processes are kind of going well, is vitalizing the qi. So I have dabbled into traditional Chinese medicine. I have found it very fascinating, and I have dabbled into this area of food energetics. So as it was saying here, it's based on the system known as food energetics from traditional Chinese medicine, or the preparation of food being able to actually have a profound effect on your qi or your vitality. This is better known as one's life force, and any deficiency in this qi can manifest as fatigue, weakness, physical and emotional or mental apathy, poor digestion, stagnated blood flow, and coldness. Does anybody else feel like they experience those symptoms? So being undernourished spiritually and mentally can contribute significantly to an imbalance in our qi. So how exactly do we start to balance this qi? Well, we can add some lovely warming foods, and this is perfect now because warming foods are in season for the fall. And foods that are typically warming thermally and nourishing are typically recommended to improve these parameters as before, particularly a sense of calm and warmth. These include grains such as well-cooked brown rice, oats, millet, spelt, unless you are celiac, as spelt does have a tiny bit of gluten in it. There's starchy vegetables such as winter squash, organic carrots, rutabaga, parsnips, turnips, garbanzo beans, black beans, peas, organic sweet potatoes, yams, and pumpkin. We have spices such as turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and black pepper, which I commonly recommend a little cocktail called golden milk. Definitely look it up. We have veggies such as onions, leeks, and fennel, which are excellent in soups, and small amounts of fruits and sweeteners such as molasses, organic cherries, and dates. And food should always be enjoyed sauteed, steamed, stewed, or cooked in stews. Now, this is what I commonly say, that cherries are excellent as a recovery food as well. So having that in your protein shake afterwards is very soothing, very nourishing. If you obviously you're not going to be eating it steamed or stewed. So putting in a little bit of those warming spices, so cinnamon, and I haven't tried turmeric. If you want to try turmeric, sure. But adding in a little bit of cinnamon in there adds a little bit of that warm factor so you're able to digest things properly. And plus, cherries are delicious. Okay, waiting for the next slide. Okay. Next, we are talking about detox. So why is detoxification so important? Well, each day we're bombarded by several environmental toxins, which can come from the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, and the products that we put on our bodies. Has anybody looked at a body lotion label recently? How many different chemicals are on there? Some of them I don't even know. It's crazy. So what do we do to help the body detoxify things properly? Well, we use the power of whole food nutrition. And what does this look like? So an ideal detoxification program consists of healthy sources of proteins, fruits, and vegetables to alkalize the system, and plenty of complex carbohydrates to provide fiber and compounds to help drive liver detoxification. As I said, you need all those different sources. So why is it that you really need carbohydrates, proteins, and fats? Well, carbohydrates provide the fiber to prevent constipation and drive liver detoxification. Now, if you get constipated during a detox, then the toxins tend to circle around. So you want to make sure you're regular during a detox. We have protein as well, and protein is composed of amino acids responsible for phase 2 liver detoxification, which, as I was saying before, is important for getting those water-soluble toxins from phase 1 that are more toxic, to get them out and get them through the kidneys or into the intestines. Protein from plant-based sources are emphasized in a detox, such as legumes, beans, organic soy products, which is to be determined because some people are very sensitive to soy. It's very important as well that they are non-GMO and organic. Fermented soy is very good too. Nuts and seeds, nut butters, organic nut butter powders, as they contain other vital components such as fiber and phytonutrients. Then we have our fats. So fats are very important for our detox as well. Omega-3 fatty acids help to decrease inflammation, which can inhibit effective liver detoxification. They also slow down insulin release, which can lead to increased blood sugar and oxidative stress. So one of the things that I didn't say, when blood sugar keeps circulating around, have you ever seen caramel? It's exactly what it does to your cells. So it's really important that it's taken up from the cell, in the cell. High blood sugar can also make the body more acidic, which can lead to decreased bone density. But what's another way that you can detoxify your body with whole foods? By using functional foods. So functional foods are foods that provide benefits beyond that of basic nutrition and may help to prevent disease and optimize health. So some of these for a detox include artichoke. An artichoke is an excellent source of chlorogenic acid, which helps the body to fight off pathogenic bacteria and exhibits strong antioxidant properties. Artichokes, particularly Jerusalem artichoke, is a good source of prebiotic fibers, which helps to feed your beneficial bacteria as well. And we have, speaking of beneficial bacteria, we have probiotics. So probiotics help to populate beneficial bacteria in the gut. This may improve digestion and assimilation of nutrients. Why is that? Well, they help to produce digestive enzymes. They help to produce B vitamins, such as biotin. They also help to ward off pathogens. They're responsible for several and the production of serotonin. I almost forgot that. They help to produce serotonin as well. So you can get these probiotics in non-dairy yogurt and kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, organic tofu, organic tempeh, pickles, miso, natto, kombucha, and any fermented foods and pickled foods. So how about some nutrients and supplements for the female athlete that are really important? Well, the one that I usually recommend, and I'm on myself, are adaptogens. So what are adaptogens and exactly what do they do? Well, these are compounds that help the body to better adapt to stress, which helps improve immune function and normalize natural processes in the body. It does this by increasing resistance to a wide array of physical, chemical, and biochemical influences. And this includes immune function, improved energy production, it's decreasing cortisol levels and enhancing brain function. It decreases anxiety, improves mood, and it also enhances athletic performance because it increases the production of nitric oxide and decreases salivary cortisol levels. Because you want to, yes, as cortisol can be good in the acute and can actually help as be anti-inflammatory, but you don't want that over a long period of time so that you're able to build that muscle. What else are they beneficial for? Well, these adaptogens can improve your resistance to toxic chemicals and act as antimicrobials or compounds that kill harmful bacteria, which can lead to infection and time off from training, which we don't want. So the common adaptogens that I really like are ashwagandha, ginseng, rhodiola, and maca. Why maca in particular? That really helps with hormones, and it's also anti-fatigue and improves there are improvements in female fertility. Why is that? Because it actually helps to increase progesterone levels. There is ginseng. So ginseng may actually be used as a pre-workout as it has stimulating properties. Now, if you are on blood pressure medication, you need to make sure that you just are wary of that as they could interact. There's ashwagandha, which is responsible for reducing stress and anxiety, reducing cortisol levels, and it even improved swimming performance in elite athletes. There's rhodiola, which helps to improve immune function, reduce stress and anxiety, and acts as an anti-inflammatory. But really overall, all the adaptogens have the capability of improving immunity and decreasing cortisol levels, which is super important because when the cortisol levels remain up, the production of estrogen and progesterone go down. So very important for female athletes, especially because we have that extra stressor on our bodies. What's another supplement that I really like? Fish oil. I take fish oil myself. And fish oil is responsible as an anti-inflammatory and also anti-clotting as well. It decreases inflammation, which will help spare muscle proteins and improve muscle recovery after hard training. But this is also really important to the female because around your menses, you are producing these compounds called prostaglandins, and that is usually responsible for a lot of those PMS symptoms. So the achiness, the cramps, the nausea, the bloating. So what this fish oil does is actually decreases prostaglandin formation, especially around one's menses. So it's important that you're getting fish around your menses. I usually recommend 3 to 4 times per week, but I usually commonly recommend adding in a fish oil for those who have PMS symptoms in particular, because sometimes these PMS symptoms, especially the cramps, can really hinder athletic performance. Dosages can range from 2 to 6 grams per day, depending on the activity level of the individual. Now, interestingly enough, I do want to say this, that salmon contains about 2,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. So that's 2 grams. So if you're getting that salmon in there you go. You're getting that whole food source. So another very important supplement that I usually recommend to my athletes are B complex. These are vitamins that are important for several different processes in the body, and typically these are decreased in times of stress. Now, let's take a look at each and every one of them. There's B1, B2, and B3 in particular. Each of these are needed by the energy powerhouses of our cells, the mitochondria, to produce energy. And I do have to say there are things called enzymes in your body that help to get the processes along and go down pathways. Several of those processes and several of those enzymes require either FAD or NAD. So that's B2 and B3. So it's really important that you're getting enough of those B vitamins. There's B6, which helps with serotonin production. The conversion of tryptophan to niacin, or vitamin B3, which I was just talking about, is really important for your mitochondria producing energy and other processes in your body. It's important for methylation, which can help to detoxify toxic compounds and other hormones. Then there's also B12 and folate. B12 we hear a lot about, especially those that are vegetarians and vegans. Well, both of them are very important for methylation as well, and the clearance of homocysteine, a common compound elevated in heart disease and other neurodegenerative conditions. Now, B12 is incredibly important for energy production, which can have a significant impact on athletic performance and recovery when it is low. So as a female athlete, you're constantly putting stress on your body, and that can deplete the body of B vitamins. So it's really important that you're getting enough of them. Now, some of the supplements that I personally really like for B complex is Thorne Stress B complex and Integrative Therapeutics B complex. You can actually get that on my dispensary at wellevate.us-drew-mulvey. I can get you actually that link. Potassium and magnesium. So those are 2 other compounds that are usually decreased in times of stress. And interestingly enough, athletes in strenuous training have a greater need for magnesium as opposed to those in non-athletic populations. And why is that? Well, they're important for energy metabolism. They're important for bone density, which actually magnesium helps with the absorption of calcium, which is critical for bone health, as calcium is part of our bones, and muscle relaxation. So really both of them together can help with anxiety and irritability, as they help to calm the system down, prevent muscle cramping, and also prevent PMS symptoms. So the cramping. Magnesium, I usually recommend a lot of green leafy vegetables around your period, especially for female athletes, as it's going to help to calm down those cramps. Sorry, my computer sometimes takes a little time. There we go. So ask yourself these questions. Are you feeling lethargic? Is it hard for you to recover after your workouts? Have you experienced any of the symptoms that I once battled with? What is this for you? Is it protein intake? Is it hormones? Or is it gastrointestinal distress? Well, do you want to learn how to use nutrition to counteract the stress of your sport and help with hormonal balance? Well, interestingly enough, the number one problem female athletes face is using food improperly, which can significantly impact your hormones, energy, stamina, and athletic performance. Now, with me, after 15 plus years of experience with sports nutrition and athletics, and suffering from several health conditions that impaired my athletic performance, today I am on the bike, I am in the water or the gym, and hitting the pavement, crushing my goals. If I can come back better and stronger, I know you can too. So there's good news for everybody. from the nutritionist that's been there. Let's go down, get down to the root of the problem and get you performing your best. I have an offer for you today that you can't refuse. And I want to get you on the path for the best life and performance. So that offer is my 6-week crash course, Food for Performance for Female Athletes. So what exactly are you going to be learning in this course? I just gave you some tidbits today from some of the PowerPoints. Yes, I gave you some teasers. So along with what you learned today, you're also going to be learning about the importance of protein, carbohydrate, and fat balance in one's nutrition plan, ditching the diet label, building mental resistance, and choosing an emotionally and physically satisfying nutrition plan. That sounds awesome. The role of hormones and their impact on athletic performance, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on. Finding a unique nutrition plan, empowering the individual to cater it specifically to their body's needs and goals. Optimizing athletic performance and recovery through whole foods, and optimal health hacks for achieving athletic goals. Sounds great, right? So what is the offer? It's Food for Performance for Female Athletes. For the next month, it's only going to be $297. After this next month, it is going to be $597. So it is really important if you want to come into this course and you are a female athlete and you're struggling with any of the things that I struggled with and you really, really want to achieve your goals this year, this will be a great course for you. So for those of you that are on Facebook, there's the QR code. You can just scan that in and that will lead you right to the sign up page. Now, thank you so much for attending, everybody, and for attending my live. Thank you so much for those on Instagram. Again, here's the link to the course. And what that will do is you will get an email with the actual link to the course after you have paid for it. Right now, we are in the waitlist phase because the course is going to be launched on October 17th, 2022. So make sure that you have your waitlist or your name on the waitlist before it starts. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing. All right, everybody. I'd just like to thank you so much again for joining today. I want to say also who I am, reintroduce myself. Hello, my name is Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist. I am a board certified nutrition specialist. I have my master's in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport, which I graduated summa cum laude. I am a certified leap therapist, which is a specific food sensitivity protocol based off of mediator release testing. It's about 92% accurate and specific for those hypersensitivity reactions. It's great for IBS, any sort of inflammatory conditions, and particularly athletic performance. I'm a precision nutrition level 1 coach, which is more holistic sports nutrition. I am also a certified personal trainer. And of course, I am the owner of Redeeming Life Nutrition. I commonly work with overachieving athletic females to help increase their energy and stamina by balancing hormones, improving their gut health, preventing and managing symptoms of autoimmunity or any sort of joint pain or inflammatory issues. But most importantly, I really help you to repair your relationship with food. So you're able to use it as fuel and it's fun as well, that's going to be the underlying basis. As I said, even previously with the female athlete triad, it starts with the eating. So we want to get that right. Now, if you feel like you need a little bit more one-on-one attention, then please sign up for an icebreaker call. The link for you on Instagram, the link is actually in my bio. For those of you that are on Facebook, I will put the link in the comments. But this 6-week course, I have put a lot into it. I am now really thriving in my sport and thriving in my health. And I want to be able to dispense that information to you now. So there's this crash course. This is going to be, as I said, $297 for only 1 month. And then after that, it's going to be $597. So please make sure that you get yourself on the wait list. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for attending. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.